My name is Leddy. I'm head of litigation at Legal Action Worldwide. We're an independent nonprofit organization that specializes in providing legal information and representation to victims of human rights violations and international crimes. We have offices around the world, in Europe, in the Middle East, in East Africa, and South Asia.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Nick. We really appreciate it.
Sure.
The first is, what is universal jurisdiction in the context of international criminal law?
So universal jurisdiction is basically the domestic application of international criminal law. And we see around the world about 160 plus states have laws on their books that criminalize things like war crimes, crimes against humanity, genocide, and aggression. And the reason this happens is because states have deemed these violations as so harmful, as so egregious, that they should be punished anywhere, regardless of where they occur. It's an exception to that traditional requirement in criminal law that crimes happen within the jurisdiction of the state.
Is this concept, this universal jurisdiction, is it something that can only be exercised by the West, by European states?
Absolutely not. I mean, it's called universal jurisdiction because of its universal character. Yeah. And indeed, Europe has taken the lead in some regards with respect to cases you're seeing in Germany and France and elsewhere. But we're seeing other countries emerge as leaders, including Argentina. But that's not really the limit of universal jurisdiction. Indeed, as I said earlier, these laws are on the books in over 160 countries. So we've seen a rich increase in accountability mechanisms around the world, including on the African continent. You've seen courts in Sierra Leone, in Rwanda, in Senegal with the Habre trial, in Central African Republic with the special courts there. You're seeing a real emergence of international justice and a desire for accountability. And I think after these internationalized courts, the next step is really in domestic courts enforcing these universal jurisdiction laws.
What experience does law have in the exercise of universal jurisdiction? Can you give us, walk us through some examples that you guys have been responsible for?
Sure. So I'd say universal jurisdiction is definitely a growth area for us. We have victims represented in domestic, regional, and international proceedings. But over the past couple of years, we're really growing in the number of universal jurisdiction investigations and cases that we're pursuing. I'd say most recently, we participated in a case in Argentina whereby we had 7 clients testify in a closed-door investigative hearing that was initiated by the Argentine prosecutor to investigate crimes against humanity and genocide that occurred in Myanmar in connection with the 2017 clearance operations. So we had 7 survivors. We flew them over. I accompanied them, helped them prepare for their testimony in court with their local counsel and with the Rohingya NGO by our side. And in that case, there was really damaging evidence given by the witnesses of the severe brutality of sexual and gender-based violence and connections and linkages, of course, to military perpetrators. I understand that case is ongoing, and it's been publicly reported that the prosecutor has applied for arrest warrants for over 20 Myanmar government officials, both civilian and military. So we're hoping that the judge executes those warrants and orders the arrest of these individuals, which would be a huge victory for our clients, of course. I can say a little bit about a couple other cases which are at the moment confidential, but in short, we're filing 2 new universal jurisdiction cases, one in Europe and one in Africa, representing clients of international crimes. In these cases, war crimes and crimes against humanity. And both of these cases involve attacks on humanitarian aid workers. So we've seen a huge spike in that around the world over the past year. And our hope is that these domestic prosecutors take these cases seriously, investigate them rigorously, and bring the perpetrators to justice.
What would you say are some of the biggest opportunities, but also some of the biggest challenges with the exercise of universal jurisdiction?
So I'd say we're seeing a lot of both, a lot of challenges and a lot of opportunities. With respect to opportunities, I really see this kind of new wave of universal jurisdiction that we're seeing over the past few years really present an opportunity for collaboration, not just between civil society and documenters on the ground, but also between states to share information to help develop investigations. We're seeing these regional networks of states together collaborate and coordinate investigations and information sharing. At the same time, I think it's an opportunity for states and NGOs to also interact with international bodies like the ICC's Office of the Prosecutor, with UN mechanisms in Myanmar and in Syria, other UN fact-finding missions and commissions of inquiry. They all have a role to play in investigating and documenting these international crimes. And NGOs and states can lobby these international institutions to participate more actively in domestic proceedings. For example, if a certain commission of inquiry's documents are being held in Geneva, through a judicial court order, the domestic prosecutor can order the transfer of those files to their domestic court to help prove some of the contextual elements for international crimes. So for crimes against humanity, evidence of the policy, or for war crimes, a nexus between the incidents and the armed conflict. These international organizations have a huge amount of resources and have done a lot of work that can be really helpful in domestic prosecutors' investigations of these same or similar crimes. So a lot of opportunities for synergy, for collaboration. We've seen that demonstrated in the ICC OTP's 2024 complementarity policy, where the office really encouraged, I'd say, a sharing of information between the Office of the Prosecutor and domestic authorities in helping end impunity for serious crimes. There's also a provision in the Rome Statute, Article 9310, that allows states to request information from the court to help prove its domestic cases. So the legal framework's there. I just think there needs to be more cases filed to really take advantage of these opportunities for information sharing. With respect to challenges, there are many. I can summarize perhaps a couple. Political will is one that comes to mind a lot. We've seen a lot of debate in the past couple years about double standards in the international community and more resources going to certain conflicts rather than others, and that being a product of political will. The same is true in domestic contexts. NGOs like Legal Action Worldwide have to convince local authorities that it's worth their time and resources to investigate and prosecute these crimes, that it's above and beyond the importance of enforcing these laws and making sure that victims have recourse. It's up to the state to spend its time and energy investigating these crimes, and sometimes that political will can be lacking. And part of what we need to do as advocates and as a civil society is to demonstrate the importance of these crimes to all of humanity and the importance that states don't become a safe haven for war criminals. Another challenge that we have, certainly in the UJ context, would be making sure that states have the resources to do this, that they have dedicated prosecutors and investigators that can take these cases. It requires some specialized training for sure, but those resources are out there. That training is available through organizations like WAMO.